Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Realer Sports In Depth. I'm Peter Rosenberg. My guest today, the legendary Philadelphia's own, the executioner, Bernard Hopkins.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Welcome, welcome, welcome. First and foremost, you have a match this Saturday night against Tavoris Cloud, Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York. Let's jump right into the obvious question. I know you get it 9,000 times a day. But you now 48?
Yes, as of January 15th.
48 years old. Why are you fighting Tavoris Cloud this Saturday night?
Because that's what I do. I mean, I'm a fighter. I'm a prize fighter. That's what I do. I mean, why shouldn't I fight him? He's, I consider one of the dangerous 175-pounders that has a belt that I want to take from him, that I am going to take March 9th on HBO Championship Boxing. This is what I do. I want to make history again on top of, I guess, 8, 9 times in my career of making history from middleweight to light heavyweight.
What do you consider to be, and I want to go back to that a little bit more because I do think there's something more, there's even more to that and something that makes you particularly interesting, what makes you tick and what makes you want to continue on. But up to this date, what do you consider to be your greatest achievement? You've had a long list of big wins, but what do you consider to be the greatest achievement that Bernard Hopkins had in the ring so far?
Oh, in the ring? The Felix Trinidad fight and also the Oscar De La Hoya fight, because those two fights was with two Latin greats. Far as, you know, the history of Trinidad and the history of Oscar De La Hoya, beating those two icons was very special, and it took me to another level, especially beating Oscar De La Hoya in 2006. And that opened up a lot of doors for me, not only sort of in corporate America, but also in popularity. So those two fights stands out. And there's some other fights, but when you ask the question, those two fights, if I was nailed down and tied down and say, give me two, those two are those two fights.
I think when I hear your name, I'll always think Tito Trinidad. I always think Trinidad.
And the surroundings of that year, 2001, 9/11, fight postponement from the 15th to the 29th. I was at Little Manhattan at the time, staying at St. Regis, just ran Central Park.
You were staying there?
I was in New York through the whole ordeal. Absolutely.
Because you guys were fighting MSG?
Yes.
Wow.
And like I said, the fight was the 15th, 9/11. Obviously, the fight didn't happen on the 15th, but eventually, the mayor at the time of the city and everybody got together and they put it together for September 29th. 20,000 plus people under one roof at Madison Square Garden was really a monument, a historic moment, not only for sports. I think that was one of the biggest, if not the biggest events in America, but for me, and to be a 5 or 6 to 1 underdog, and of course, I bet on myself with the online gambling.
How much you throw down on? How much did you throw down on Bernard Hopkins that day?
$250.
Large.
Yes. It was well publicized. I mean, Larry Merchant spoke about it before.
$250 large at 6 to 1, 5 to 6 to 1?
6 to 1.
6 to 1.
Yeah. It was a cost. I'm not going to do a commercial for it, but it was a Costa Rica offshore gambling, well-known site that actually wanted to put it on my shoe, thinking I'm going to be, on my back in the air. And I took that little bit of defense, but I laughed it off, and I said, well, what's the bet? And it's a gambling, website sponsor, so hey, my lawyer and my people, I said, look, let's just go ahead, keep the money, let's do some paperwork, and I'll be back to Costa Rica to have fun, chill, and then get my check.
And collect your check.
Yeah, but I had to pay a lot of taxes when I came back.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a nice check. When you come back, you got to pay too. But what is it like? I've seen Tito fight before in New York. Talk about in that fight what that Puerto Rican crowd is like in New York City when you're going up against that.
Well, the crowd is amazing, but I know that we talked about the two fights that I want to mention as two of my greatest fights, but right now, Cloud is Trinidad. Right now, I don't live off the past. I'm a guy that always go forward. Even in my personal life, I do use the past, even though it was an ugly period in my life, to motivate me to continue to move on. But I want people to understand that I don't live off the Trinidad fight to motivate me now, because things are different. Not only is my age is definitely different, I'll beat Tito when I was 35. They was calling me old then. 15 years plus later, they still calling me old. Is old, the word old, fit for Bernard Hopkins, or they just calling me old because my age? We live in a time where 48 is not old. Maybe in boxing it is, and I don't want to downplay that because there might be some major sponsors out there and say that, hey, Bernard Hopkins is 48. I'm not a boxing fan, and I heard the guy is clean. He's not a Lance Armstrong. He's doing it from the muscle. He's doing it from the grit, the right way, the honest way. Kids need a role model. Kids need an example that you can win and you can do things without taking shortcuts in life. Bernard's the poster boy of America, of the obesity of 80% of the children, white, black, Jewish, Muslims, Jehovah, whatever they represent. We have a problem. So you can go political with me. You can go political in career. You can go past tense and present. At the end of the day, I am different. I am different, and I love the 2 Chainz song. I am different, and different is strange to normal people. I understand that. The average person that's not a bad person, whoever she or he is, look at me as being strange. Why are you doing it at 48? Why are you still fighting at 48? Do I talk like I'm a fighter? Do I talk like I've been punched in the head? Do I sound like I've been crazy and I'm here just to be here for the moment? I'm known as one of the, not the shrewdest, but one of the safest fighters when it comes to handling my financial business and how I spend and how I relate to have and the have-nots. So when you have that versatility and you're smart, you're a threat to some that want you to be ignorant. Travis Cloud is trying to take a percentage of my legacy and add it to his to build himself up. That's the way a young guy's supposed to think. He's hungrier than Bernard Hopkins. I agree. You're probably shocked I said that. He is hungrier than me. But I got some right hands and left hands to feed him. And when it's all said and done, March 9th, they can take my blood, they can take my stool, they can do everything they need to take because I'm promoting something that people don't want to pay attention to or even act like it don't even exist, but focus on my age like that's a negative in boxing. But if you take Bernard Hopkins and put me in the NBA, and I was playing on the first 5 starter of the Miami Heat, and I won a championship at 48, or I was scoring 20 points playing my part in any sport, football, basketball, baseball, in America, how big and huge Bernard Hopkins would be. But it's something about boxing, and I know I seem like I'm rambling, but I'm giving what's on my chest. It's something about boxing and the people in boxing and the people that look at certain boxers. Everybody can't be Bernard Hopkins just like they couldn't be Muhammad Ali. It's something about boxing that they don't care about that. But if I have a money belt on with $250,000 in cash, if I'm making it rain, talking ignorant, if I'm doing things that the mentality of what they used to see and what they want, to sell tickets, to get the big ratings, to do this and do that, that's a sellout to me. That's contrary to what I stand for. So to be Bernard Hopkins, where you would think the opposite of saying, man, if you was in any other sport, doing what you're doing, and getting all this media attention at Gallagher's famous gym in New York City, and they come in there to see you and talk to you, a 48-year-old athlete. What athlete in any sport can get over 50, 60 plus media people wanting to talk to him, wanting to ask him questions? Only in boxing what I do is negative, and it's something like a curse to them because they don't want that type of athlete. They don't want that type of athlete who come across like me. They don't want to hear about, man, you come home doing, you did 5 years in the penitentiary, you walked off everything without getting back in trouble. That's too clean. We need scandal. You spent all your money, you're broke, you're being pimped around, you're doing shows, concerts, talking about your life, people laughing at you, selling tickets. That's what they need.
Do you believe physically you're able to be as good in the ring as you were 10 years ago?
I can show you better than I can tell you.
Well, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out on Saturday night.
Yes.
But that is why people ask the question, because as people who have been fans of you over the years, you want to remember a fighter at the top.
But
you get nervous every time they fight that you're going to see a shell of themselves.
But that's why you have a thing called curiosity. That's why I need you to buy tickets. That's why I need people to turn into HBO Championship Boxing, because the curiosity make you come to the fight. The curiosity make you turn on HBO. The curiosity make you say, let me tune in because I want to root for him to win because I'm 40. See, I done took this thing to a bigger level. I done took this thing like a businessman that not used to seeing in boxing. I'm thinking two ways, like some of the famous rappers that became entrepreneurs. I'm looking at it like, wow, I can parlay this as a flat-foot hustler out of Philadelphia. I can parlay this into a movement because there's a lot of 40-year-old people that's living. There's a lot of women that's looking behind them and saying, man, this girl, man, looked like me when I was coming up. Now, I got to get rid of this kangaroo pouch and I got to get rid of this weight. So now I'm going to look at B-Hop. And he's doing it clean, and he's doing it right. So I'm going to buy me a juicer. I'm going to start going to these organic stores and getting the right stuff and leaving up pasteurized. So now I done started moving. I done looked and seen the hustle and said to myself, then since the boxing world was looking at Bernard fighting at 48 and I should just go my way, leave it to the young guys. They trying to dictate my future and dictate where I should go. Then why not I look and put my publicist hat on and say, hey, wait a minute. Why the 48 has to be a death sentence for Bernard Hopkins? When I'm asked, how do you feel at 48 when I turned 48 January 15th? And I said, I don't know how I feel to be 48 because most people I know are 30 or 40 or late 20s. They're taking 5 medications. They got diabetes. They got sugar. They got cholesterol. They never took a punch. Look at my body and look at them. Their insides is not like my insides. So
how do you know what it feels like to be 48?
So how I'm going to ask that question? I said, I can ask someone else how do it feel like 48. Most of my guys, I can tell you, not my team guys, because they learned from me, being from me 10 plus years, most guys been with me. But people I know in the family and friends in my neighborhood that I still go visit, they in bad shape. And so to ask me how it feels to be 48, you can't ask me that. Because I don't know what a 48 person feels, but I can ask that question to you. How do it feel to be 48 if you didn't do the right things when you was 20 and 30? You can't look at Bernard Hopkins as being a regular Joe. Well, no, I'm different. Very clear. And so I don't know how old you are, but you don't have to be a boxer to get out there and run 5 miles and not be spitting up and puking and crapping in your pants. But I guarantee you, I can go out there and get it, and anybody in this room here would be like, man, you doing it because you're a fighter. No, I should be able to run 2 miles if I'm a fighter or a guy working at corporate America.
Well said.
You can't do 2 miles? You spitting up, puking, doing, you can't, what are you talking? I'm almost 50, dog.
I feel like fans of boxing, to me, I always knew how smart you were. To me, if there was, I think one criticism people had of you is that I think you upset people because you're too smart. You fight smart. You avoid getting hurt. You fight the smart fight. You end up winning fights and winning in life because you fight smart. And people aren't accustomed to seeing that out of fighters. Right. Who gets glorified the most, right?
It's a new day now.
The glorified fighters are the ones who get their faces bashed in the most. That's who we love.
Arturo Gatti.
Arturo Gatti we love. I love Chico. People like that, people really glorify, but those guys get really beat up. That's not how your career has gone.
But let me ask you.
You went a different route.
I want to be able to count my own money.
As you should. As you should.
Listen, man, before I became a fighter, and I ain't bragging because I'm not proud of that life, before I became a fighter, before 50 became who he became, we all got history, man. I'm just using people as an example. Before Jay became what he became, he wasn't always who he is.
Of course not.
Right? But that's what I'm saying. It's the same thing coming up the street in Philadelphia. Yeah, up the street. At the end of the day, man, listen, I was never a dummy. I just had the negative or different outlook on how I'm going to get money. I was good at what I did. I was good in spite of going to jail. I was good at what I did because a lot of things that I did, I got away with more stuff than I went to jail for. So, but you still pay. You still pay at the end. So now it took a lot. And it wasn't all my work to it. I had to put the labor and the time to it. But it took a lot for me to say, if I can turn this negative around, it could be a lot of great businessmen if they can churn what they do out there into corporate America, which corporate America don't want that type of competition, then you'll see the Magic Johnsons come out of boxing. You'll see the Magic Johnson come out of football, basketball. You'll see the boxer come out. Not all going to follow. Because some people want certain things and they satisfy. Give me a Rolls Royce. Give me a chain. I want my mother out of Marcy Projects or Diamond Street Projects in Philly. I want to come out of there. I'm satisfied with that. Listen, everybody goals in this room are different. All right? What's satisfied to you might not be satisfied with me. I'm still fighting because I'm not satisfied. For someone else to say to me, Bernard, what do you mean? You made history. You're a Hall of Famer. You won all these belts.
You got money.
You know, I Googled your name. You're worth $50 million, right? You can Google. You can get an estimate, right?
At least an estimate.
Right? Now listen to this. If I'm not satisfied, how you going to be satisfied for me? The executioner is totally different than the guy sitting in this chair. The executioner is the total guy to look you in your pupils and look at you and say, I don't care about your mother, your kids. I don't care about nobody in your family. We going to war, and it's your life or my life. I'd rather for it to be yours than mine because I want to go home to my daughter. I want to go home to my son. I want to go home to my family. And you know what? When we're in that ring with those 10-ounce gloves on, I can hit you so hard in your brain that you'll be eaten from a straw for the rest of your life. That's important to me. Anybody else that's on their ass watching this and looking at the fight, they have the luxury because they choose to do what they do, and I don't knock them. And I chose to do what I do as a profession, and I don't want nobody to feel sorry for me. But I know the risk. And when you know the risk, and knowing they don't know it, they'll tell you, I know what you're talking about, but I know what you're talking about. They don't really know. So when I go into that other person don't care about nobody that you are attached to. And that comes out in my spirit when I fight. When I fight, I'm trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to hurt you. I'm trying to have you look different than what you came in that ring. And you should try to do that to me.
I got news for you. I have a hunch. It's now Thursday. It's now Wednesday. The fight is Saturday night. The executioner is starting to creep into this interview right now. The executioner will be in the house Saturday night, Barclays Center, Brooklyn, HBO Championship Boxing. Bernard Hopkins seems a long way from being done, kids. Looking forward to seeing what you do on Saturday night.
Thank you.
Executioner, baby. Philly.